I'm Alan Ross. I am a co-founder and co-chair of SaRA, which is the Safety and Reliability Association, a 501c6. Lee McClish is one of our founders, one of our board chair members, and a dear friend who he and I have learned about each other through several journeys for me and two for you, because I remember we started at Raging Wire. That's where we first met through SD Myers, and now we continue on. Thank you for being a co-founder and passionate about what we're doing at SaRA. And again, it's mysara.org. Lee, welcome. Talk a little bit about, first of all, start with where you are now at NTT, your role, and then I want you to go back and tell me how you started when you were a young buck practitioner just coming into the reliability, maintenance, safety, the whole industry.
Yeah. Thank you, Alan. I really appreciate it and honored to be part of SaRA. Right now, I'm the Director of Maintenance Reliability for NTT Global Data Centers. We have about 150 of them globally. I've been with them for 7 years and a few months. And I just been in charge of the Americas up till now. And now, as of October 1st, evolving to the global. So I'll be working on the maintenance reliability program for across the globe, which is exciting, learning new cultures and how they do things. So I think my maintenance...
And it's exciting, and you're going to have to travel, right? So, then you got time zone problems to deal with, but congratulations on that. That is well-deserved, by the way.
Yeah, thank you. I think my maintenance journey started when I was a kid growing up on a farm. And then I decided to join the Navy. I was in the nuclear power program and really learned a lot about maintaining equipment from the United States Navy. They do a good job. If you ever do much reading in books on RCM, there's a lot of stuff that came from the Navy there. So that really set me up with a good background. And after about 10 years of active duty, I went to my first manufacturing plant, which was corrugated. And they really had a lot of lacking of preventive maintenance, didn't do any predictive maintenance. So I was able to kind of create a whole program there. And my next company, same thing. They didn't even have a CMMS. So I've had a lot of the opportunities where I could just grow my own, start from scratch. And the only thing about growing from your own is you can't blame anybody else, right? If it doesn't work out the way you want it to. So I've really been blessed to have that 20 plus years of manufacturing to set me up. Being in charge of mechanics, guys are out there working on the equipment, listening to them, taking their input, making things a lot better and what checks you're doing, which ones are unnecessary. I think all that feeds in, and now I'm more of a corporate global role. Is still keeping your pulse on the floor, what people are doing.
So the good news, and that's kind of what we're trying to tell everybody. We can intimidate. People can talk to you and say, yeah, but he's at NTT Global and everything. But you started somewhere, nuclear submarines or the nuclear program. We just talked to Ron Moore. His first job out of West Point was on nuclear submarines. And Ron is also a part of being founding SaRA. But it's brilliant because you're exactly right. In the reliability world, the Navy was probably ahead of everybody because they are so nuclear. I mean, a submarine is underwater with nuclear warheads on it and is powered by nuclear. It's just amazing to me. So that's brilliant. That's good to hear. Talk a little bit about why you said, yeah, when you and I talked, and you said, yeah, I'd love to be part of SaRA again. You were on the board of EPRA, the company I retired from, the Electric Power Reliability Alliance. But when I mentioned SaRA to you, you just jumped on board. Tell me why.
Well, in my first plant, we had our own substation, and we kept having these fuses for a capacitor bank blow. And of course, it happened on a Sunday night. And our power factor go to crap, and we get a big, penalty bill from the power company. So I really spent a lot of time digging into that with our corporate electrical engineer, trying to solve the problem and whatnot. And I just really saw a need, because I didn't even know what an ANSI NETA MTS was back then. I never looked through NFPA 70B. And I think I really missed a lot, because nobody cares till the lights go out, right? I've heard you say that.
Right.
You know, and it really matters. And when I came to data centers, and I really had the time and took the time to really look at all those, standards and whatnot, there's a lot really should be done that'll really keep you from getting bit, at some point. So I think SaRA is kind of a culmination of that, hey, there's some real, if you don't look at things after a certain period of time, expect to get bit, and this is a good forum to kind of, for some prevention.
That's excellent. Thank you. Talk to somebody come, because we're looking for we're looking for every job function within that. So the person that's just coming into it, to the people at your level that are actually running the shop for companies like you, Bill Rodeman. Almost every one of our board members has a broad responsibility at their companies. But talk a little bit about the member. Why join? Because the next generation doesn't like to join anything. The benevolent, what is it, BPOE, the Benevolent Paternal Order of the Elks, they're dying because people aren't joining. That next generation doesn't, So talk a little to that member and do a recruitment spiel. Why should they join?
Yeah, I think it's just a resource to that degree. I mean, it's all the social media stuff. It's webinars, roundtables, what have you, what you want to call it. But just be able to go in and look up something. Say, what type of maintenance should I do on my high voltage transformers?
Right.
Well, you can go in there and not only do you just get, the standards, but you get input from what other practitioners are really doing. If you go in ANSI NETA, that was made up by people who like to do testing. That's their livelihood. So they have all kinds of stuff in there, and a lot of it is just not value added. And sometimes most of the time, taking that equipment down really impacts your operation and your customer. And it's very difficult, if you can't do an annual shutdown to get these things done, what kind of condition-based maintenance, what are some other alternatives, to be kind of monitoring that equipment so you can maybe increase some frequencies of, going into a resistance checks and stuff like that.
Yeah, you and I just, you did your EMP, your electrical maintenance program, and one of the things that as a result of communicating with you, I realize is as we move from a time-based, especially if electrical equipment, we move from a time-based to a condition-based, and you spend the money to put a monitor on so you're looking at the condition. Do you still shut something down to do time-based? And the answer is no. You've moved beyond that, because shutting it down, what is the worst time for a transformer? It's on startup or restart, right?
Yeah.
Everybody should just hold their hands, because if you don't do it correctly, you're gonna have a problem. So when you turn off a transformer to do electrical testing because it's time-based, you got problems. Now when you put the monitor on it, but anyway, you know that because that's what we just talked about. Okay, one of the ways we fund, because there's no cost to membership either. It's not like pay $150. You come join, you become part of a network. Now we have two types of membership. One is sponsorship, where you come in and sponsor something. That type of member we call an approved provider. We're not going to have a situation where you have vendors and it's like, hey, sell everybody here. It's going to be a situation, if you come in as a provider, yes, you will be a sponsor. However, your first job is to educate. Then if all of our members decide to click to go to you or ask you a question, that's their choice. But we're not going to push anything on anybody. It's not to sell your widget or to do that. It's to educate. And as we grow our organization, and you're known as one of those people to do it, so I just made a pitch. Why would you talk to a vendor who's selling you, who's coming in daily, and you're buying products or services or something? What would you say to them about why they should join to become an approved provider?
Well, they're also problem solvers, is the way I look at it. One example, when I was as part of EPRA, I reached out to Ben Lance, talk about cables. I mean, going to a transformer and taking apart, all the tape and everything on a connection to look at it. I mean, who does that? And when you do it, there's a potential you're creating a failure. So what technologies are out there where you can go assess, those connections and the cables and determine if you really need, to go any further into it. That's just, one example. But if you're having, it doesn't have to be an actual break, just potential failures and trying to eliminate them. Reach out to these vendors. They really kind of know what's on the horizon, and they're experts, and at least you don't have to necessarily buy their stuff, but at least get some pretty good ideas what's out there, and maybe eventually get it budgeted and make it become part of your program to reduce some time-based, maintenance to make it more condition-based.
And there's a lot of that going on. By the way, Ben has decided to join our board. He is now on the SaRA board, so I'll be doing one of these with Ben, and that's a great. It's to educate, and they've got knowledge, but that's really what it's all about. If we share and we network, it'll be a value to the approved vendors, and we're going to give them some love in the fact that we're going to do interviews like this and post them, and do what I would call third-party promotion for them, because they are an approved provider. And guess who approves the providers? The other providers. So we're creating a committee of people that are passionate about SaRA, that have become part of it. People like Martin Robbins from Iris, Alan Rienstra from STT, Ben Lance from Osmos ImCorp. But we've got a passionate group of people that they're going to protect their own. They're going to say, hey, you get to come in if you educate first. We'll help you promote, but educate first. That's it. That's perfect. I'd ask if you have any final words, but I didn't ask you to prepare for that. But here you go. You're on it. Hey, any final words? And we didn't do this on tape, but I got to get this on tape. Our very first working group is going to be creating a gap analysis for creating an EMP, which now NFPA 70, is it a requires you to do it or recommends it? I'm not sure.
Yeah, it's required. It became a standard 2 years ago. Yeah.
Okay. And that's a big deal. I didn't even know if it was because it was a recommendation for a while. Now it's a standard and a requirement. Not doing it and having a problem, a safety problem,
right,
is going to cost you. It's going to be really bad because, when the lawyers come in and say, well, did you have an electrical maintenance program? And the guy got injured as a result, I'm going to tell you the damages are going to go through the roof because it was a requirement that you did not follow. Lee, thank you so much. This has been tremendous, and I'll be back in touch about this. So you are now officially one of the co-chairs of our electrical maintenance program gap analysis.
All right. Thanks, Alan.
Thank you. All right. Bye, guys.
Bye.